So week 3 is in the bag, my 30-day challenge, and today is my status report. Now for those people out there who don't know what I'm doing, I am doing a 30-day challenge on self-connection, and I've actually been documenting my story on Instagram stories, and every night after my sessions of my self-connection, I have been essentially going on there and giving my thoughts about that particular session. Now the self-connection challenge is actually sitting in silence for about an hour, sometimes 2, sometimes more, but I essentially sit in silence for an hour, just being, not trying to think of anything in particular, but any thoughts that come to mind, I typically just identify them and then let them go. I don't try to overanalyze anything. I just, again, let them go. And now we are on week 3, and week 3, I must say a lot of the different ideas that I've had over the past week have been very simplified, right? They haven't been too random, right? Like last week I felt like a lot of the thoughts that I had were extremely random, and this week it wasn't so much, right? It was more about like simplicity. It was more about just not so much chaos, right? Like even in the beginning of a lot of my sessions, like there's not as much chaos anymore, right? Where before it seemed like week 1, like there was a lot of chaos, and week 2 was a little bit better, and this week it seems like it's more dissipated since then, to the point to where, you know, I'm like excited to hurry up and be and just be, and I stay in that moment, and then again, when I come out of that moment, out of that session, I actually feel really good. I feel really relaxed. I feel really at peace with myself, right? I think that's the biggest thing I've noticed doing these sessions is I'm becoming more at peace with myself, and I'm actually looking more at, you know, how I can, you know, not only use the sessions to help me, but to start doing that when I'm not, you know, sitting in silence, right? Is to go with that flow, because it seems like the more I can be in that state of being, that I feel good, right? It's like you don't have any worries in the world. You just go and you do, and you find that you want to work. You find that you want to, for myself, I find that I want to work. I find that I want to, you know, go out and run and exercise and eat well, right? And it's just being, right? And it sounds funny, you know, especially coming from meditation, where when I was in meditation, it wasn't so much that way. It was more of the, again, that, you know, injecting positivity and just feeling, you know, more focused is essentially what I felt like meditation was doing for me. And it helped, right? I was able to focus a lot better, where I think this also takes that focus and, again, just allows you to be, right? It doesn't allow you to worry about small things, because a lot of times I think we allow those small things to build up, right? That small negative energy just keeps building and building and building, and it just leads to more bigger things, right? That cause us to, you know, just think everything is always so negative, right? And it's easy to paint a picture in everything negative, as opposed to, you know, not so much being positive, but I mean, just being, right? Don't think too much about it. And whatever happens, happens, right? Don't overestimate it, that it's going to be this great, happy thing, and don't, you know, underestimate it either and think that, you know, it's going to be horribly bad and all these different things. But just being is, you know, you've defined that like a more be, which I've talked about before, and I've tried to be more, you know, present. And I've always tried to be aware of this, especially since I started doing meditation. And again, I've tried this on and off throughout the years, but again, more so I've been heavily more into it now. And the more I can just be, the happier I am, right? Because I'm not worried about anything. I'm always just looking for that feeling, right? And that's the best thing I felt. I had a particular session this week where I was actually just trying to sit, and one of the thoughts that had come to my mind was just, how can I implement this throughout my day, right? How can I stop, you know, thinking about the future, stop thinking about the past, And like I typically do, normally if it's something about the past, I'm like, okay, it's in the past, it doesn't identify who I am now. And I say that a lot in my videos too, because I don't think the past should hold you back. The past does not define you. But in the state of being, right, you just enjoy the moment, right? Because it's all about moments. And I talk about everything always being in moments. But when you are in a state of being, you really live moment by moment, right? Because that's essentially all you have, right? Time is just something that, is unmeasurable, right? It's really just, time is man-made, right? Just to keep us on track and all those different things. And when you are being, you're just in the moment, because that's all you have is that moment, right? There's no really future, there's no really past. It's just that moment. And we get caught up in all the things that we want in the future, and then we get caught up in all the things that happened in the past, or we try our best to to be present. But I find like nowadays it's harder to be present, because you've got so many different things that are focused around entertainment and keeping you busy, keeping your mind busy with all these different things. And when you disconnect from that stuff and allow yourself to be in the moment, you start feeling happy, right? Because you don't know what to expect, right? You get this feeling like, man, I should go over there and talk to this girl, or I should go over there. I feel like running and I'm gonna go run, so I go run. Or it might be something else, like I feel like I want to go make this particular video, so I go make that particular video. Now whether it's successful or not, it is what it is, but it's just going with the flow, right? And I feel the more I can stay there, and I've always been practicing this on and off especially again over the past year and a half, we're doing the meditation, but it's again, my meditation didn't really help me with that. But the more I'm being present now, the more, again, I feel happy, right? And so that's the biggest thing, is I've just been pushing more to be doing this, to be more conscious of this throughout the day and seeing where it takes me, right? And especially with the holidays and everything going on, I don't get overwhelmed with that stuff, like, right? It's not that I ever have, but I don't really think about that. I really just think about what I'm doing in the present moment. And I'm feeling, again, really good. Like the sessions are really helping, and again, working on staying in that moment, when I am, again, just going through daily tasks. I feel like it's definitely, I feel good. Again, I feel happy and I feel excited. And again, I've been noticing a lot of my sessions, in particular, that my sessions are allowing me to, I feel energized sometimes when I do these sessions, and I don't know why. Like before then, I feel okay, right? I don't feel bad, but then I go into the session, I feel energized, like ready to take on the world. And it's like you open up that pathway, right? That essential, you're guiding light, essentially, right? You're listening to your heart, and you have that pathway open, especially after coming to these sessions. And so like it's like you get that understanding, your body understands that, hey, he's willing to accept, whatever's, coming through, and then it just starts pushing you these random thoughts and ideas. And, but one thing I did notice, right, is that you can't force it. And that was something else I reflected on this week, is don't force it with your thoughts, right? With your logical side, to again let it come through as it wants to come through, right? And that's the biggest thing. Is Kyle Cease always talked about this, was that it's only going to give you a step at a time. It's not going to give you the grandioso picture, right? It's not going to give you all this stuff ahead of time. It's just going to tell you right then and there, because you're supposed to be in the moment. And when you get that, whatever that is, then you execute on whatever that is, and that's what you're supposed to do, right? And so again, I've had some really good ideas come through this week. This week again was very simple, right? Because I thought about simplicity, right? Just try to keep everything simple, keep my life simple. Don't think about anything crazy. I don't Nobody needs, all these different things in their life, right? To be happy. And you realize that when you start being more in the moment and understanding and appreciating a lot of the small things, right? Just about being, right? And I guess that's a big thing too that I think about, like, even like when I became vegan, right? The biggest thing is I started thinking, right? And maybe I'm like overthinking the whole vegan thing, but my whole perspective changed on vegan when I went vegan. I was so against it and all that beforehand. And then when I became vegan, it was just different. It made me really challenge, right? Like back to the basics, right? Simplifying stuff like your diet. If you really just simplified it and they like natural things, right? From the earth, right? It makes a tremendous difference to your body. And I for one can testify to that, because like my body has changed so much over the past, it's been a year and a half now since almost I've been vegan. And I've noticed such a huge difference, right? Like I don't feel like the old man anymore, right? Where, 2-3 years ago, I was like, man, this is the way I'm gonna feel forever. It's just part of being old. And now, like, I feel like I can go run with 25-year-olds and lift with 25-year-olds, and I have the energy and the stamina for that stuff, where I didn't have that like 2-3 years ago. And yes, exercise, getting in a regular routine during exercise and just eating healthy, I'm sure would have just helped. But even when I was, working out consistently, 8-10 years ago, I felt good, but I don't ever recall feeling this good. And so again, the whole diet thing, was just simplifying, right? You just simplify your diet to those things natural to earth. That I see that, right? Maybe that's where the simplification came from. Now I know you're not supposed to really look at this stuff and overanalyze this stuff, and that's what I'm trying to avoid, but I look at that as like, that's simplified, right? And that's really dramatically improved my life, like tenfold. So it was just that, right? It's just the simplification. I know I kind of went a little bit more in depth with the vegan stuff, but I'm just trying to simplify a lot of different things in my life and trying to, again, find myself. And doing these sessions, I'm really finding I'm probably more close to myself than I've ever been. And again, each week I feel like I get closer, and it's been fun, right? It's been enjoyable. I actually look forward every day. And it was actually 2 days this particular week in which, I was extremely busy and I didn't have that extra hour until like the very end of the day. I believe it was actually on Saturday. It was like the last 2 hours of the day, like literally it was almost midnight of Saturday, and I still got my session in. I was like, I gotta get it in, right? It's all about the consistency, right? If you do it daily and do it consistently, you definitely, it adds up, right? And ultimately that's what you wanna do. And I know, just even like coming from that fitness standpoint, to make any progress, you gotta consistently be going, right? You gotta be consistently doing everything. And you notice that again in the fitness realm, because if you stop, even for a brief moment, right? Your body's built in a way that it will, after 2 weeks, it will start shedding that muscle because it doesn't need that muscle anymore. And in your mind, it's the same way, right? Like it tries to consistently, cleanse itself and allow itself to, be able to obtain more information, and file away other specific parts of information. So if you are consistently doing it, that's brought forth, right? That's one of the most up-to-date things that your body and mind can think of. And so it helps if you're consistent, right? And if you're not doing consistently, then you start, forgetting, how to do it, and it takes you a while to build back up to where you were at. And again, essentially your fitness level as well. Like I said, if you take a whole month off, if you're in prime shape of your life and you take a month off, you'll notice a big difference. And I even noticed that with my running, right? Like I took essentially almost this whole summer off. Like I ran a lot last winter as well. Maybe it's just the heat. Maybe I don't like running in the heat, but I took majority of the summer off, right? I ran a couple days here and there, but I didn't really run a lot. Now, if I had been running during the whole summertime, I could have actually been competing in a marathon like I want to now. And And that's essentially it, right? Is you got to be consistent and doing these sessions. Like, I didn't want to miss a day because I was enjoying what it was doing, right? I was something I look forward to every day, was that time with myself and allowing myself to essentially like recharge, right? It feels like you get recharged after doing these sessions. And so that's essentially what I learned from this past week, and I've really been enjoying is just, again, the time with myself. Now, some people, you know, may dread that. You know, I dreaded it in a way because I didn't know how I was gonna react, again, because I tried to sit for 5 minutes when I first started doing meditation, just in silence, and that was just so chaotic, like I couldn't do it, and I wanted to keep looking at the clock. And I was just like, I set the timer, I put it down, and then I be, right? I close my eyes, I be, and before I know it, it seems like that hour passes, and it passes very quickly, which I, didn't think would happen. But now every session is like that, to where it flies by. And a lot of times, you look like, well, you kind of get a little greedy, and you're like, well, I wouldn't mind sitting here for another hour, Now, sometimes your schedule might not allow that. My schedule is pretty crazy, so it's not like I can really. Sometimes I can afford that second hour, sometimes I cannot, but I do, again, look forward to the sessions I do have every day, which is about an hour on average for the most part. So I hope you guys are enjoying these weekly status reports. I look forward to next Tuesday and see what I come up with. And if you guys do enjoy these weekly status reports, smash that like button. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.